So we know canola futures have been on a little bit of a tear here the last number of weeks, a little bit of upside in this canola market, which has been great to see. The February feedstock report came out. It was in regards to, feedstocks used for biofuels, and canola oil, after having a great end of 2024, came in at a 3-year low. So I messaged Susan Stroud from No Bull Egg, friend of the show, and said, Susan, we need to talk about this. You need to tell me what's going on. So let's get into it, folks. Episode 75. We will have Susan Stroud with No Bull Egg joining me shortly. Hey, folks. Welcome to the What the Futures podcast, your quick guide to better farming decisions. All right, folks, welcome into episode 75 here of the What the Futures podcast. And I want to thank Ian for his text this week. Ian sent me a text directly, said, Ryan, what do we have to do to get more than one podcast episode per week? Could you not figure out a schedule for, maybe May, June, and, September, August, September, where we could get multiple podcasts going per week? I don't know, guys. I'm going to have to hear from a few more. So send me a message here, either social media, email me, go to the website, whatever. Hit me up. Let me know if we should do this, because I'm not opposed to it and I have an idea. But is Ian alone in this, or do you guys want a little more What the Futures here during these busy, busy times? All right, each and every episode is recorded in the UPL studio, and I know I mentioned Egg in Motion last week, but I'm pumped. I'm going to be in the UPL booth for Tuesday and Wednesday, all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday at Egg in Motion. We have some fun stuff planned. We are designing our swag right now, designing our t-shirts. We gave away, I can't remember how many t-shirts we gave away last year at Egg in Motion, but all you had to do was come over to the booth and say hi and grab your t-shirt. it was not very hard. And we're beefing it up this year. We're going to have t-shirts to give away. We got a couple other fun items in the works. And of course, we've teamed up with the Canadian Center of Agricultural Wellbeing to, we got a great hat that we're going to be seeking donations on. It's going to be a one of a kind, thanks to Paisley, and a little bit of help from her sister Everly as well. But we are going to ask for a donation, and you can get a one of a kind What the Futures collaboration here with Paisley and family. So looking forward to that. And we've been dialing it in the background for Egg in Motion. I hope that we are just there having a coffee Tuesday morning. I know UPL's got the coffee bar set up. We're going to have a little crop marketing made cool conference reunion the one morning with a little breakfast sandwich, coffee. I'm going to do a crop market update. It's kind of my second go. So we're a little bit more tuned up for this year, and I'm excited for that. So my big theme here, I've got Susan Stroud with No Bull Egg coming up here in just a moment. We've had a decent canola rally back from the dead. You guys know this already. We got canola out of the grave, threw the wheat futures in it for some reason. Freaking wheat. I just got a text from a buddy, and that does consulting, and it's a 4-letter swear word and then the word wheat after that. So, we're all feeling it. We're all feeling it out there right now in the wheat market. One thing that comes up during this time of year, you guys could probably tell me a little bit better, but it's classic for on our farm. The one thing that I could put on a t-shirt every year that comes out of my dad's mouth is that it is dry and we're not selling a darn thing. And it's like clockwork. And then it's me for days and weeks going through all sorts of strategies for him so that he can remember that he can still manage his risk and protect his downside without exposing himself to a buyout scenario or a big buyout scenario. Not just him this week. I got it from a few, but I'm sitting on my hands. I'm not doing a darn thing. We're in a drought. And until that changes, I'm not marketing grain. That's honestly, it's a little bit sad. And it's a little bit sad because Marketing grain does not have to be, hello, grain company. I see on your website that you now have a price of X amount per bushel. Please write me up a contract and fax it over. Like, that's not, it doesn't have to be like that, right? It can be, hey, my canola margins here are getting high enough with a good yield that, geez, I might be able to offset some of the loss in my wheat acres. Or, oh, wow, we're sitting here middle of May in this market. It just spiked with this dry forecast, but my guy says it's going to rain here right away. What can I do? Like, I got a put option in place. Can I sell some futures in my trading account? Like, what could I do here to participate in protecting margin without exposing myself to a buyout? Like, it's the reason I say it's sad is because more often than not, it's like clockwork that I get the, hey, it's dry this week, we're not selling anything, followed by market peak, followed by wet forecast, market pulls back, verified, it finally rains. So that's all that means. 2021 being the exception, finally rains, market craps the bed, soils the sheets. So the sad thing is that that you can have your cake and eat it too. You don't have to sit here and bury your head in the sand and sit out, not do anything. You could do something. You could do something from a crop marketing perspective that protects margin, protects profit, but doesn't expose you to a major buyout scenario. You can limit your risk. You can totally take on no risk if you have your brokerage account open. There's things you can do here to protect against lower prices. I'm not saying the high of the canola market is here in the first or second week of May. I'm not saying that. It might be, time will tell. It might be. But all I'm saying is that this time of year, it is very rare. If you think about your career, you think about all the selling decisions you've made, it is very rare to sit there and say, what the heck was I thinking in May of whatever year? Why did I make that sale? Okay. Yeah. 2021. Sure. 2020, I'd have to look at a chart and see, but 22, it was a May peak. Lunchbox crew, I was going over all the peaks and I had a lot of Mays written down. I'm positive 2022 was a May. That's when highs are established. The sad thing is that farms don't take action. The weather turns, gets wetter, and then the markets pull back. And I know you feel better on the sell side because you sit there and say, well, I finally got that rain. I'm all right that it dropped $1. I got the rain. You could get the rain, get the yield, and get the dollar. You can have it all. Okay. So I get it's a little bit sad. I don't know if we'll make t-shirts up or what we'll do here, but it's a little sad when it gets a little bit dry in the spring. People freeze up and watch opportunity pass them by. Some of you listening wrote big checks for buyouts in 21. I know you did. Okay. I know you did. Our farm also went through this. Okay. We had a massive buyout scenario, but we also had a massive call option that was just offsetting the risk the entire way. The funds transferred over, buyout gone. You're going to say, well, that's sad, Ryan. You could have used those funds to buy something. Okay. But that wasn't the point of that strategy. The point was to make sure we didn't have a big buyout, and we did not have a big buyout. So I don't know, folks, it gets tense out there. That's why markets rally as well. And just don't forget that once we're all comfortable with the crop, then you never know what's going to happen. We've got Sabrina with UPL this week. We've got Susan, who's going to get us updated here on everything going on with biofuel policy. And then we got me covering all the crop marketing stuff in between. So buckle up. Let's rock and roll. A little bit of an extended episode for you because you have time if you're in the drill this weekend. You got a little time, a little extra time for the What the Futures podcast. So let's get into it. All right, folks. Susan Stroud with Noble Egg joining me here once again on the What the Futures podcast. Susan, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So last time we were on, I just want to give you an update from across the Canadian prairies. So we are, as of the first week of May here, going back and forth in the field, planting our $6 wheat. We're still having a good time doing it. We're not making any money doing it, but we're having a good time planting the wheat crop right now. So I thought I'd throw that in there from our conversation last time.
I'm glad. Well, at least it's you're going glass half full.
Yeah. It's we thought like when canola prices dipped down to that like $12 a bushel here across the prairies, we thought that was bad. But then wheat basically said, here, hold my beer, and gave up everything. And we're sitting here staring down the worst wheat prices in the last number of years. So it's, we'll see if it loses its shine at harvest time, but we're still going to put in 19 million acres of this stuff, right? So we got to do it. I sent you a note last week. Your Wednesday update, the hot take came out, and you had an article there in regards to the February, I want to call it the Feedstock report. What caught your attention in that update?
Yeah. So unfortunately, as we all know, government data is often delayed. And there's always a lag with feedstock data. So when we're talking about feedstocks, as it relates to grains and oil seeds, for the sake of this conversation, we're talking about what did we make biodiesel and renewable diesel, and there are a few other biofuels like sustainable aviation fuel and some things like that. But anything that is made out of a fat or oil, a waste oil feedstock, that's what we're talking about. And so to back up, in the U.S., the start of 2025, that's when 45Z was implemented. And so that's really changed the subsidy dynamic here in the production of biomass-based diesels. And so February is our second month of the year. And, we thought that January was bad, and turns out February was even worse. So total feedstock demand it hit a 2-year low. So around 2.1 billion pounds. But the noteworthy declines, so we saw soybean oil hit a 4-year low, canola oil was a 3-year low, and corn oil was a 2-year low. So anything that's a crop-based feedstock hit multi-year lows. Now, with the exception, corn oil is actually a byproduct of ethanol production, and so has a very low carbon intensity, and it's very desirable when you're making something like renewable diesel. But this also just kind of speaks volumes to the shakeup in the overall market. Huge reductions in the production of biodiesel and renewable diesel as we lost that $1 per gallon blending tax credit effective January 1st.
Is that tax credit like 45Z? Is there still meetings going on? Are they still doing the what do you call it? Not consultation, but there's the process. I don't know. I just remember there were supposed to be some meetings, and yeah.
Sure. It's not a final rule yet. And the other thing that further complicates the issue is the fact that it was part of Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, which has been in place for a few years. We didn't receive the details on it until about a week and a half before Biden left office. And then the issue now that this is sitting in the hands of a different administration. And so there's still a tremendous amount of uncertainties. Unfortunately, the industry has to take what it's been given now and move forward with that. And so the biggest changes, and especially those that affect Canadian canola producers, is that canola oil, it doesn't matter if it's from Canada or here in the US, the finished fuel made with canola oil has a carbon intensity that's too high to qualify for any subsidies under any tax credits under 45Z. So that's the reason that we've seen a drastic drop in the amount of canola oil used in biomass-based diesel production. And so prior to 45Z taking effect, I think canola had at one point, maybe in December, it hit a high of like a 15% market share of overall feedstock demand. And then we hit a multi-year low in February. And I think it was 4% of overall feedstock used. Just huge shakeup, because we've always been a big importer of canola for food use here in the US, or food. And now, since canola oil was approved as a pathway into the renewable fuel standard, just meaning that it's recognized by EPA and will receive, you can generate RINs if you're producing a biofuel using canola oil. So when the pathway was approved back in late 22, we saw a tremendous uptick in canola oil imports, and all of that being going for biofuel demand here in the US. And of course, now this is demand that's hit the brakes in a big way.
In your opinion, is this still is it temporary because we don't have, final guidance and it's just what we're working with today? Or is this a trend that you expect continues on and late into 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's still a huge question mark. I think the other thing that we have to keep in mind, we have a few, not only is the 45Z thing still in question, but we have a lot of groups that are actively advocating for additional changes. Right. So, for instance, you have a Farmers First Fuel Act. I'm probably saying it wrong, but some bipartisan legislation that's been introduced. It's not the first time it's been introduced, but it's been reintroduced. There are a few things in that are important. One is that it's seeking to ban all imported feedstocks. And so, of course, that has a tremendous impact on Canada, considering that the overwhelming majority of U.S. canola oil supplies are actually imported. And again, that's just a proposal. The other thing, or the other piece of it with that legislation, they're also trying to get the indirect land use change penalty removed. And so this is one of the big points that put crop-based feedstocks at a disadvantage compared to used cooking oil or tallow, which are considered waste feedstocks and have a very low carbon intensity score. So as it's set up now, and what indirect land use change means is that in the models that the government uses for these programs to determine carbon intensity, it's saying that here in the U.S., if we start producing more biomass-based diesel and we are using more soybean oil for that, it means that someone's going to have to grow more soybeans to offset whatever those bushels were doing previously. And in this case, it's saying that deforestation in Brazil is a direct result of us using more soybean oil for biofuels. And this is just an example because, unfortunately, indirect land use change, this penalty, it haunts all crop-based feedstocks. And I guess the point that a lot of industry groups here in the U.S. are trying to make, they're trying to say, okay, EPA, we understand why you have this in there, but at the same time, us using more soybean oil for biofuels does not mean that we're directly causing Brazil to expand acreage, deforestation, so on and so forth. So what they're trying to do is get that indirect land use change penalty removed from the CI score. And so it would put crop-based biofuels on a more even playing field with waste feedstocks. And at the end of the day, raise subsidy. Okay. So that's what keeps canola oil at this point in time out of the mix as a feedstock in 45Z. It's because of indirect land use change that the carbon intensity score is too high. So I guess my point after all my rambling is that there are several things that we're kind of juggling here. So one, we have 45Z, which is just this huge change in subsidy structure and incentives here in the US. Ultimately, it's ended up cutting canola oil out of the mix as a feedstock. It also bans imported used cooking oil to be used in the production of renewable diesel. And then the other thing is it no longer incentivizes fuel imports, because we used to be able to import biofuels, blend them, and get that dollar tax credit. And that's not happening. So it really cut supplies. And then the other piece of it now, there's actually three pieces. So that's piece one that's already in place. Piece two is behind the scenes, they're working on potential legislation that one, it either could possibly ban foreign feedstocks altogether. So that's a major issue for Canada. The other thing that they're asking for is the removal of that indirect land use change penalty, which, let's say that maybe they do get that removed. That means that canola oil could potentially be back in the mix. But if it would be passed that we're banning foreign feedstocks, then you're back to square one. So there's several things. And then the other big thing that's been the news lately, and a lot of the reason that soybean oil has been so firm, is because you have not only ag industry groups, but you also have big oil coming together as they are trying to talk with EPA about forward mandates. So the renewable volume obligations that we have as a part of the renewable fuel standard here in the US. So those are revisited from time to time, and it's the case right now for 2026 and 27. The number that's been touted, it's very large. It's much more closely aligned with actual production. One of the biggest challenges and the thing that's really hurt margins in biomass-based diesel production, particularly, let's just say the past year or so, the thing that's hurt margins the most is that we're out producing the mandate by a mile. And so it's depressed RIN values, it's hurt overall margins. And so this is something that ag industry groups and apparently big oil are trying to work through. And those rumors of these larger numbers, a lot of that is why we've seen the bean oil market so strong.
So, I'm sitting here, across the wires comes, this big oil, big ag meeting from, the couple days prior or something like that. And bean oil rallies, canola rallies. Like canola was, I want to say, it's back from the dead here a little bit. Like canola futures have rallied, giving farmers opportunities at some of the highest prices in the last 12 months. And it was after these stories came out that big oil and big ag were getting together. These larger volumes, I suppose, were being proposed. What are the odds, the chances that that's a bit of a loaded question, but that we get to those bigger numbers here? Do you have an odds maker out there that's weighing this for you from a percentage standpoint?
Yeah, there are groups that have been fighting really hard. And, the problem that we ran into are when EPA when they put the mandates out there, they really underestimated how quickly we would see renewable diesel capacity explode. And so that's how we got ahead of ourselves. It's been, and I think the market is growing. The market's growing tired of the weight game here, because it felt like every day last week it was a new rumor. It's the RVO is coming out today. It's coming out today, And it's because it's late.
Today's the day, right? Yeah. Today's the day.
So, and we've seen the bean oil market, it's down almost 5% this week so far. And that's really because I think we got ahead of ourselves. Bean oil tends to track with energies quite well. And and it's all because it trades as an energy commodity now because of its biofuel demand. And so we really saw it get ahead of itself the past few weeks. We had an almost 20% rally in a very short period of time. And then as we saw the energy complex start to roll over, that's definitely not good for bean oil. Bean oil is finally taking a step back. And it has to do with the makeup of the market too. We won't get an update. We won't find out where we're at effective Tuesday, yesterday's end of day position, until end of the week. But as of last week, I think it was April 29th, funds were incredibly long bean oil, one of their longer positions of the past few years. And it just means that that market's ripe for a sell-off because it's out there in no man's land.
Well, if that is where we're at, then my lovely canola futures are need to be watched here as well, because we do have a tight canola supply. We did have a small crop last year, so we do have a tight supply, and honestly, demand has been, I call it just so normal. Like you get into the spring, crush plants go to a positive basis. There's lots of demand. Supply is tight. It's just been a very normal spring from a marketing perspective, but I'm definitely have my ears perked up here on what bean oil does. And in energy, if we switch gears to energy, the latest here over the weekend and last week in your reports, like energies are weaker. It's a little less expensive to fill up at the pump these days. Where do you see that going from a maybe short-term perspective?
By no means an energy expert. I mean, we've been moving, one thing that we haven't really talked about is trade. Not that I want to open that can.
Yeah, I thought we could get past through this episode without talking about trade stuff.
One thing, aside from, I think some of the movements in energy markets lately have had to do with OPEC, but bigger picture, markets still, markets on edge, trying to figure out how is Donald going to approach. First we had to kind of deal with, it wasn't just, we're going into a trade war with China again, but it's we're going to pick a fight with every country possible, including islands that are home to only penguins.
Penguins, you bet.
So,
yep.
Markets had to deal with a lot of those things lately, and still trying to figure out, like, are we headed into a recession? What exactly are we doing here? And going back to canola, maybe some of the reason the canola hasn't, and it's been several weeks here that we've been on a more positive terms as far as U.S. relations with Canada, and suddenly we have all of these things that are exempt under, existing trade policies. So that's a good thing overall. At the end of the day, as long as we don't have a very hefty tariff in place that impacts all Canadian canola oil coming into the U.S., we're in a situation where we likely see more canola used in food applications here in the U.S., assuming that biofuel policy kind of stays as it is. But kind of longer term view is that we see more canola coming into food applications in the U.S., and then we'll be using more U.S. soybean oil directed toward biofuels. But you wouldn't know that by the first 2 months of feedstock data for 25. But we still have a long ways to go. And that kind of goes back to this idea of a substantially higher mandate going forward. And then again, the potential that we continue to ban particular feedstocks, or some feedstocks don't get a credit, whatever it may be. All of those things kind of, and especially because we're the U.S., we're a big biofuel importer, or we had been a big renewable diesel and biodiesel importer because of that $1 blending credit. And that generally is 16-17% of U.S. supplies were imported every year. And so the system has to try to find its way through all of these messes, because we definitely have a supply shock and a void. And that also goes back to, you talking about lower energy prices and things. Well, when you have low energy prices, it's not good for biofuels, because biofuels are inherently more expensive anyway. So it only works out well if you have very pricey crude and you have expensive diesel. And so it's much, it could either be more cost effective to use a cheaper biofuel, or you want those two things to be, they're moving in somewhat in unison. And when biofuels, like the situation we're in at the moment, things get out of whack, no one's as, you're not as eager to use it when it's priced substantially higher than petroleum fuels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have a lot to unpack yet in 2025 when it comes to all this biofuel policy and direction. There's a lot here. I wrote down food. Is there anything from the food side that is, I don't want to keep going down the negativity path here of demand for canola oil in the food side, but you talked about it as being a bit more positive. Is that, is there anything to suggest otherwise, or is that a positive spot that we can, because that's what we started with our canola oil was in the food side. So, is that our, shining light right now?
I feel like some of the headlines, the rhetoric, whatever you may want to call it, I feel like some of that's died down at the moment, but it still doesn't mean we're barely into a 4-year term. And it seems like Mr. Kennedy has plenty of things that he's anxious to go after. Mm-hmm. And the seed oil situation is there. I don't know. I guess for the sake of canola oil, you have the benefit of for a long time, canola has been known and marketed as by far the healthier
alternative. Yep.
Oil. Yeah. And so, I think naturally you have, you're starting from a better place, definitely than where soybean oil is, because soybean oil has long been, we've been through the hydrogenated thing and all of that stuff.
So the bean oil will go towards the biofuel side, and then canola will come and sweep in to the food side, and we'll all live happily ever after.
That sounds perfect. Yeah. But the worst thing is that, again, it's based on policy, and more policy.
It got dark. Like, it got dark there, a month or two ago. Like, I was chatting with farmers and putting up all the what ifs and some of the negativity, the channels that potentially were closing. Like, it got really dark there when you started looking at tariffs on canola oil to the U.S., on meal to the U.S. China, they have a tariff on canola meal and canola oil, not seed. Our exports are phenomenal. We're shipping lots of canola seed out right now, but it got really dark there, and it's nice to get a chance to do a little bit of risk management, have a chance to price at positive margins, all while we're planting the crop right now too. So it's been a nice couple weeks here now. Knock on wood. All right. So is there anything globally on your radar right now from, a veg oil, storyline, or do you watch, palm oil much? And is there anything globally that you want to shed some light on today?
Yeah. And one of the reasons, another driver kind of in the bean oil weakness lately, is that U.S. bean oil is no longer, we had about an 8-month run as being the cheapest veg oil in the world. So, okay. And a lot of that had to do with expensive palm was quite pricey there for a while. When you go back and think last fall, drought in the Black Sea impacted crops there, sunseed, that kind of stuff. And so the U.S. was winning by default for quite a while. That is not the case now. So palm is a substantial discount. And then you also have Argentina new crop crush going. And so that's definitely undercutting U.S. soybean oil in the export market. And so our export time to shine for soybean oil is all but over with now.
Noted on that one as well. All right.
Sorry, nice and negative.
Just a subtle one in there. Just a subtle one where I'm like, all right, let's keep an eye on that too. But okay, so I want to end on some positivity here. You're very active. I know you got a big speaking engagement coming up next week. You do lots of travel, but you also host your own conference as well, correct?
Yes.
And so I've got AgriNext is what it sounds like you've maybe rebranded it a little bit or made some changes for this year. Do you want to give us a little bit of an inside look?
So this is the third year. The first 2 years were called Summit, Nobles Summit, and then whatever the year was. Yeah. And I decided that was the most overused word in the world. I wanted to give it its own name or own identity. And so this year, AgriNext is the name that it will have going forward. This year, it is Wednesday, July 23rd and 24th in St. Louis. So it kicks off doing something a little different this year. We're doing a dinner riverboat cruise along the Mississippi on Wednesday evening to get things started. Actually, nice. I should back up and say we're first taking a ride from the hotel through downtown St. Louis on these party golf carts that have music and lights and all kinds of things. So you can take in the sights of downtown St. Louis. They're going to drop us at the entrance to the arch grounds. And so you'll be able to stroll through underneath the arch and go down the steps along the riverfront. We're doing a riverboat cruise that includes dinner and drinks. It's a narrated tour because St. Louis is called the Ag Coast of America. The St. Louis port has more belt capacity. Actually, I think it's 2.5 times the tonnage capacity of any other inland port in the country. So really big for ag. So we'll do that to kick it off. The next day is the event itself. We'll be back at Ballpark Village for the third year. So Ballpark Village is a large bar restaurant venue that's adjacent to Busch Stadium. And we will have sessions all day long from, I think the sessions are 9 until 3, all you can eat and beverages included. And then we will wrap up on Thursday evening with a Cardinals baseball game. We have a few private suites that are all you can eat and drink as well. There's a recurring theme. Lots of food, lots of beverages.
It sounds like a blast.
Lots of great people to meet and mingle with.
From a speaker perspective, because obviously the location and the setup sounds amazing, is there anyone that stands out that's going to take the stage that you're really looking forward to? I'm still working on finalizing sessions and speakers. Probably the most recognizable name, if you're in the Twitter X space, Karen Braun is going to be kind of co-hosting with me. She's going to help me MC and moderate during the event. So I'm excited to have Karen there. I also have Scott Girl from American Soybean Association. He'll be participating in a panel that focuses strictly on renewable fuels. And I should have a few other people on that panel as well. And so definitely a lot to talk about on that one. Also have Wesley Davis with McKinsey and Company coming in, and we're going to talk about the trade and tariff implications on the upstream side of things. And so talking about inputs, a lot of a very substantial amount of the chemicals that we need here in the US, and I'm certain in Canada too, those are coming from China or India. And so there's a lot to discuss there, and the way that this ultimately hits us at the farm level. We're always so focused on the export business, which it's definitely important, but we're forgetting about the fact that we import a lot of goods and the way that hits the bottom line. Yeah, excellent topic for sure. And if people are interested in getting tickets, is there an application to fill out? What's the best spot to go and snag these?
Application, that would be good. If you visit nobullag.com and just click the link for events, then it's AgriNext. So
perfect. Sounds great. And you are opening up ticket sales on which day again? Sorry, was it May?
Friday the 9th.
Friday the 9th. So the day this episode drops, they will be able to snag tickets. Very timely. You bet. All right, Susan, thanks a lot for the extra time today. Appreciate it. one of my goals here for 2025 is just to get more familiar with some of these terms and all this policy stuff going on, because it has a big impact on us as well. And it used to be watch the export numbers, watch the crush, it's going for food. Like, it wasn't that complicated, but now when you throw in all these policies, trade, all this stuff going on, it just brings it to the next level. So my goal is to get a little sharper on all this here in the second half of 2025.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking earlier when we were discussing canola, and I think you had mentioned the meal and the oil situation with China. I just feel like I'm not certain that from a canola perspective, China can pick or I should say from a protein meal perspective, China can pick a fight with both the US and Canada. So at the end of the day, their real need is a protein meal to feed their hog herd. So when you look at kind of what's happened with the Canada situation and the anti-dumping issue, and then the 100% tariffs, I don't know. I think that that's something that's important to watch, because their protein meal is becoming more expensive by them avoiding U.S. beans entirely. And I think it maybe leaves them in a spot where they'll be a little more motivated to make sure that they have friendlier relations with Canada, given the abundance that you have.
We did get some headlines this week on that, saying China was coming to the table and had a friendlier tone. So we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, thanks for that, Susan. Thanks again for your time this week. And look forward to our next conversation.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I'm not sure if it's just me or if you guys kind of reminisce as well, but looking back at moments from certain times of the year, when I look at the sprayers going across the field right now, I think back to, kind of two things. Number one, I did a summer job for a company where I had to push this little sprayer thing, and I almost fell in an abandoned well in the middle of the field. I jumped over a hole, and what was below that was a well. Anyway, the other story that comes to mind for me is I went to go lend a hand on the farm. I was coming in to pinch hit on the sprayer. And so you get the tutorial, you rip around the field a little bit. And then my dad says, just, watch your first corner, give yourself some room. You're just doing, pre-seed burn off. This isn't rocket science. Don't worry about it too much. Just watch that first corner. Well, the first corner has one tree, one dead, not even a real tree, just a dead carcass of a tree sitting there. Just this old dead. It's maybe broken, a poplar tree broken off, 3/4 of the way up or something like that. Well, I come around the corner and I just crank this thing with the boom. I didn't even, the breakaway wasn't even involved. I hit it before the breakaway, just bad. So I just think about my skills where I'm coming to, lend a hand and help in that moment, which then resulted in the sprayer being down, someone having to run for parts and losing, better part of a day on that one. So anyways, I was, on social media, it's great seeing all the activity out in the field. And I saw a great couple of tweets here when it comes to John Deere's See and Spray system. And some of the stories out there, some of the numbers, some of the actual savings going on, it's been pretty impressive to watch. So John Deere See and Spray, what we're talking about is 36 cameras on a 120-foot boom, scanning for weeds and spraying only where needed. That's their ultimate setup. And they say that you can cut herbicide use by about 50%. And I love saving money. All right. Now, if you're not in the market for a new sprayer, See and Spray Premium is also available as an upgrade, so you can bring precision spraying to the gear that you've already got on farm. It's smart, efficient, and hey, I like saving money, so cost savings is a big deal. Ask your local John Deere dealer about See and Spray or visit deere.ca to check it out. All right, folks, of course, my favorite segment each and every week is Positive Moments. I got a couple doozies for you here this week. Number one, the farm is hard at it, planting crops and getting the kinks out, getting the gremlins out, and they're cruising now. So we'll seed in the dust and the bins will bust, right? That's the saying. So lots of positive energy on the farm right now, and the work getting done. So that's positive moment number one. Second one, I'll say for this week. Of course, I love talking about my kids, so I'll save that one for last. But my Oilers, by golly gee, they're in the second round. And they even pulled off a game one victory, which we do not get in the playoffs. Edmonton does not win game one. So, hey, fingers crossed, knock on wood, all that good stuff. The team's off to a good start in the second round. My playoff pool, also positive moment. As of last night, I was in 70th place. So there's 76 teams, and I'm in 70th, 7-0. But I was dead last. So it's the second round. I'm charging here. I am charging. In my other Lunchbox crew pool, I'm second last, but only because the last team forgot to fill out their bracket. So, I don't know. I'll take that, right? You got to fill out your bracket. Second last on that one. All right. My last positive moment of the week. I'm going to go with the kids here for this one. I took the kids to the park. And like last summer when we'd go to the park, like, Finn was a year and a bit old, right? So you're very much, partaking in the playground activity. You are, you're in it, right? Well, now we go to the park and I'm in it, but the kids are, they're climbing everything. Finn has no fear, so he often will lead the charge in some of the activities, and then Willa sees him do it, and she jumps in. But it's been really fun to see them at the playground here this spring, just taking that next step, that next level. The wipeouts are unbelievable. Like, poor Finn. I don't know how he gets up after some of them. He's getting knocked in the head. He's bruising his shins. He's bleeding from some skid mark of some sort. But I guess that's what it was like for all of us, right? And he brushes himself off and gets right back at it and is having a blast. So if I wiped out like he did, we would not be recording the podcast for a couple of weeks. But I'm there trying not to be helicopter parent, trying to leave it happen, trying to keep him safe, but also, living and learning lessons along the way. And, hopefully we're doing it okay. But there was that. My last little one, I'll just add to the kids. So Willa is, she's 4.5. And this week her teacher approached, my wife at pickup and said, "Hey, I just want to share a story with you about Wilhelmina from today." And I thought this was kind of definitely tugged at the heartstrings for me. So I'm positive that Charlie's parents don't listen to the podcast. All right, we're going to say that. But Charlie went to Willa. Willa loves doing artwork, and he went to Willa and he said that her artwork was ugly. Okay, Willa has a big heart. And so she, sheds a tear or two, and she puts a lot of effort into her art. I definitely need to hang more up in the studio because there's a pile of it, a pile of beautiful stuff happening. So she goes and gathers herself according to again, this is coming from the teacher. And Charlie's doing his work. And she goes up to Charlie and she just kind of stands beside him. And she just tells him that, "Hey, Charlie, your artwork looks really, really nice. And it looks like, you're doing a great job today." And I don't know about you guys, but even for me as a person, like I can hold on to a grudge for a little bit longer than a few minutes. All right. Yeah, that's one of my things that I got to work on because I can hold on to a grudge for a little bit. And, but for her to go, and the way the teacher told this story was just to go and, go and Charlie's artwork, I'm going to be honest, it's fine, but it needs some help, right? It needs some help. But to go and just compliment his work after he, said what he said about her ugly artwork, and then to go and to compliment him shortly after and to just park that and give him encouragement. Man, like as a 40-year-old man, like I need a little bit more of that in my life. I need a little bit more of that compassion and those life skills. And so I don't know. I thought when I got told that story, I got a little choked up as a dad. I thought it was pretty special and pretty cool. And I hope that all of you listening, can take a little bit of that with you in life, because we definitely, at times we need a bit more of that. So, all right, folks, that's it for positive moments here for this week. All right, folks, I've got Sabrina with UPL joining me on this week's episode. Sabrina is a technical service specialist covering the province of Alberta. Sabrina, how's it going this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for making the time here bright and early. I know you are in the thick of it right now. Do you mind just telling me, what you're kind of seeing out there in the field right now?
Yeah, a lot of wind. And
Yep.
So that top layer is drying out really quick. That being said, there are weeds up. So yeah, seeing some wild oats. I was out in kind of that Lougheed Provost area the other day, seeing some stork bill. So the soils are definitely warming up and some of those weeds are starting to pop up. But yeah, just seeing a lot of wind and seeing that top layer really dry out. So we're hoping to get some rain pretty quickly here.
Yeah, for sure. I think my forecast is trying to give us some chances later this week, but fingers crossed. I'm seeing on social media, some farms are a little bit ahead of schedule when it comes to planting. So they're maybe taking a few days off. And I even had one grower in central Alberta. They kind of asked on social media, should I just stop and wait for rain? Generally, the survey results said, no, keep going. But is there anything to that right now? Do you think there's time to pause here on May 7th, or is it, first part of the year, let's do the job and let Mother Nature handle the rest?
Yeah, I would be inclined to, especially with the forecasts not showing any kind of big cold spells in the future. Like I think that planting probably seems like the best idea, and to chase that moisture. I know some of the growers I've talked to are planting a little deeper right now. So that's probably a good idea to capture that moisture that's there. The other thing too with these winds is there've been some really bad fires around. So especially like north of Edmonton, that Redwater area. So I think maybe planting is a good idea to do just in case, you're in an area that's maybe prone to fire and then you can't get back out there if you're
for an amount of time
busy with that, right? So
there's I was driving home last night and the fire is, I don't know, it's probably like 15 or 20 miles north of me, but coming up the hill, all I could see was the smoke, the huge smoke. And I was like, that looks actually really close. And I looked, I'm like, oh no, it's still got to jump a river to get to me. But it's that uneasy feeling out there. So, and we know our farmers often are the first line of defense here when it comes to these fires across the prairie. So stay safe out there, guys, if you're out fighting fire. All right, Sabrina. So you're covering the province of Alberta. I just want to ask a little bit about your role. Like what do you spend the most time doing, or what do you enjoy the most in your role?
I think what I enjoy the most is that I'm always learning something new, because my role is very research and development based, but I use that knowledge I gain in the research and development side to support the sales side and support our customers. And I'm always going back and forth. So I think I really like the fact that it's a very practical applied role where I'm hearing about problems from growers and then actively working on solutions on the research side. So I really like that back and forth and the practicality of it.
Awesome. And so last year, 2024, we have, for the most part, not everybody, but we have a really good start to the growing season for a lot of farms. And then things change mid-July. In your travels, what did you, through your eyes, what did you see develop in 2024?
Oh, I just thought it was kind of all over the place. I have some growers that I talked to who had wonderful yields last year. Yeah. And then some who it started out looking so good and then, had that heat dome, especially on the canola, that was tough. But, and some people just had crops that were able to recover too at the end of the season. So I think it was all over the place. I thought it was interesting last year that early seeded canola suffered a little bit more than the later seeded canola. Just, I think early season canola got the heat dome, the later seeded didn't as much, but that's just luck of the draw, right? I think there's sometimes where it could go the other way as well. So I think, the one thing I did hear from growers last year was that, the growers who maybe didn't yield as well as they were hoping or that they thought they were set up for, they did say it was a bit of an easier harvest. So a little bit of a quicker harvest, and growers had some time to get out in the field after harvest and clean up a little bit. So whether that meant doing, a post-harvest spray or doing some harrowing. And so I think this year, the little I've seen in some fields just going in is that I think the weed situation going into the growing season is a little bit cleaner this year because we had some time in the fall. And also being able to get out and seed, being warm right away. I think some of the cleanup opportunities are there's a little bit more going into this season.
Sure. No, great stuff. With that, we had a small canola crop last year across the prairies. You look at the total and StatsCan, let's peg it just under 18 million tons of canola. We have a market rally. We have some of the highest prices we've seen in the last 12 months happening right now. And we're here to talk about a product called Wave. And I want you just to give us the one-liner on what Wave can help a farm with.
So Wave is a very versatile biostimulant. And I think the one-liner I would give is that it can help both stimulate growth and help protect your crop against abiotic stress.
All right. Now, you were on the show last year when we were talking about where it was from, right? Did we record last year?
I think so, yeah.
France?
Talking about, how we source our raw ingredient in France.
Yeah. All right, cool. Okay. So when I look at farm economics here in 2025, I'm a believer in going for the bushels, because if you don't have the bushel to sell, it makes life challenging. So you want to get all the bushels, lower that cost of production, and by getting more bushels, more volume, and then having it to sell, especially when these markets show some strength. When I look at a product like Wave, to me, that's a tool to go and help you get those bushels. I hope I'm right in saying that, but can you talk about your experience with Wave in 2024? Because we did find a stressed crop as the season wore on.
Yeah, I think what I noticed is that Wave made the most difference in fields where there was this a pretty obvious stress. So whether that was drought stress or heat stress, or even we had a couple of trials earlier in the season where we actually applied it to canola seed, and there was some cold stress, and that we saw around like a bushel and a half increase in replicated field trials. So yeah, I think there were a couple fields where they actually yielded very well. Like I said, there were a few fields last year where they were lucky to kind of miss that heat dome. And then, then we're not seeing as big of an impact with the Wave. But I think, where there was definitely more stress, that's where we could kind of see a benefit. That's something that we would have observed last year.
Okay. And just getting into the more of the, I don't know if it's practical side of this or the technical side of the actual application. Like, when are we implementing this Wave? When are we tank mixing this with what other product, and what's our timing like?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of replicated small plot trials that we're taking to yield. Through those, we tested out multiple rates and different timings with Wave on a variety of crops. And we found that canola is one of the crops that responds the most consistently to Wave. And the timing where we most consistently see a response is kind of that later herbicide timing, that second glufosinate or second interline pass timing.
Okay.
I think fungicide timing, that early fungicide timing, there's also been some good results, but we typically recommend that sort of later second herbicide pass, as sort of like our primary, like our first choice, I guess. I think last year, quite a few growers didn't do a second herbicide pass. A lot of them just did one glufosinate pass. So that's also, we see some responses there as well. But yeah, I think the ideal timing is kind of that later stage canola, like before flowering. I think that's when we can expect to see the most benefit against if there's a heat stress during that flowering time. So that later herbicide or early fungicide would probably help most with that heat stress then. But if you're just going in with one pass earlier in the season, that can be helpful too. I think there's some nice biostimulant properties that come up then where you're helping the canola stimulate its root system, which can be really helpful for, just accessing more moisture and, and more nutrients in the soil.
So it sounds like it's got some versatility from a timing perspective, and it's something that you can be a little bit more aware or I don't know if aware of the conditions is the right way to say it, but it's something that is available or accessible many times throughout the growing season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's a good product. I tell growers to, if use it, try it out for a couple years, because then you get to see every farm is different. Every field is a little bit different, but you get to understand a little bit more about, based on your soils and your environment, like when your plants are likely the most stressed. So yeah, so I think that helps to, to try it out for a couple of years, maybe play around with that timing a little bit. But like I said, the most consistent timing tends to be that second herbicide pass.
Yeah, we're going to try a few different things with it this year on our farm, just depending on conditions. You never know. You say that, and then all of a sudden, in a month or whatever, the conditions are there, and you're like, we used it all. But the plan is to try a few different things. So, all right. So folks, I just want to also point one thing out here. So if you're listening to this conversation and you want to know more about UPL or more about the products, if you go to the What the Futures podcast website, you click on, I heard it on the podcast, you dig through there, and you can actually find your UPL rep. Sabrina, we have you on here in blue, the Canadian Technical Development and Service Team. But the sales reps are on here as well for the Western Prairies, the Eastern Prairies. We got the whole team on the website. So go and check it out at whatthefuturespodcast.ca. Sabrina, is there anything else you want to talk about today that we didn't cover yet?
I think what I would say just about, it's just biostimulants in general. I think that maybe one thing I would say that's new is, the more I work with Wave, the more I'm connecting with, people at retails or in other companies who are learning more about biostimulants in Canada. And I think that there's a growing interest, there's a growing understanding. I think we're helping to manage expectations around biostimulants. We're trying to get away from that snake oil concept, because we're not selling it as something that's going to save your crop. It's something that's really coming off as topping off your yields, putting a nice little top up on your yields, helping out with that bit of stress.
Yep.
And it's been very exciting to talk to so many people who are interested, to growers and agronomists who are really interested in biostimulants and trying to understand it better. And I think, I really like working with it, because you get to pay, you're paying that much more attention to your crops and trying to really figure out what's going on with them, and trying to learn your fields better and understand the stresses better if that's going on in your fields. So, it's just been, I've definitely seen a difference between last year and this year with people's understanding of biostimulants growing, their interest, their skepticism kind of lowering, because they know there are people who are doing good research and really trying to understand these products.
All right, great stuff. I'll just end here with what the futures is going to be hanging out at the UPL booth at Egg in Motion here this summer. I'm looking forward to it. Sabrina, are you going to be down at Egg in Motion this year?
Yes. Awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I have way better equipment for recording in the plots this year, so we're going to have a better time with that.
Okay.
So, all right, Sabrina, I know you have a busy day ahead and a busy week, so thanks a lot for joining me on the podcast, and look forward to seeing you at Egg in Motion.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
All right, folks, I wanted to do a little eating your veggies here for episode 75. Eating your veggies, I always bug everyone that it's the right thing to do. These are the things that you should be focusing on and focus on the right things to do here. Now, it's a little bit different for everybody, but these are things that are certainly coming across my plate right now. Of course, I work with a couple of farms, do some one-on-one farm consulting. I have the Lunchbox Crew farms as well. And there's been lots of action here the last couple of weeks. So anyways, I got 3 for you here for this week. And my first one here is, I know that it's a little bit tense out there from a weather perspective for many of you. I saw one of my good friends up north got a rain here or middle of the week, but it's dry and it's a little bit stressful out there. I understand that, but I also want you to realize that it's not about, when you get to moments like this, it's not about freezing up completely and stopping the execution of your crop marketing plan. I'll never sit here and say, hey, go sell a bunch of physical stuff and put yourself in an uncomfortable position on potentially a buyout due to drought in the next number of months. I'm not going to say that. But what is important to do right now is, when you have seen a canola market climb $2 a bushel and you are at a path to profitability and you're faced with these dry conditions, it's to make that phone call to the people that you sell grain to, that you do business with, and just ask them, hey, I don't want to maybe sell anything today, but over the next days and weeks, I am going to want to make some sales. And can you come back to me with a strategy? If I sell you this canola, this wheat, let's stick with hedgeable crops, corn, soybeans. Can you come back to me with a strategy that would limit or reduce or completely not expose me to a buyout? Can you come back to me with that scenario? And while you're at it, send me it via email, send it to me via text message. If you have any supporting material, send that over as well, because I'd like to look at that, because I believe that this market is going to find a high sometime this spring, early summer. Let's say, I'll pretend I'm you for a second. If you're going to believe that that's going to happen, which history tells us it often does, then prepare yourself. Prepare yourself to take action here, because what bugs me the most, I was going to swear instead, but what bugs me the most is when I talk to farms about, hey, the market's really rallying here. We're getting to levels that are quite profitable. And the first thing I get back is, hey, Ryan, we're in a drought. We're not doing anything. All right. It's the first week or two of May. Again, it's sensitive out there. I get it. But more often than not, when everyone's doing the same thing, saying, I'm not doing a darn thing, the market's rallying. And then when the forecast turns wet, not even when it does rain, when it turns wet, the market pulls back. And then you scramble. The scramble is on. You're not prepared. And you don't know what strategy you're going to execute on. It's just not the time to freeze right now. It's the time to get educated on the strategy that you're going to execute on. I hope that makes sense. But instead of just saying, no, I'm going to go back and forth in this field in a drought and not focus on margin or not focus on my business, I'm just going to go back and forth. And when it rains and the market drops $1.50 a bushel, I'll live with it because it rained and I needed it to rain to sell something. Don't do that. Don't do that. You can get yourself in a position to grab that $1.50 and still get the rain and still do really, really well. Okay. You got to take a moment this week to phone a buyer And if you're staying there and your buyers come back and they're like, hey, yeah, I got nothing for you. Well, then make another phone call. Go introduce yourself to a new buyer out there. Because I don't think you'll have time to open up your futures account to execute on some futures or option strategies for your brokerage account. If you didn't do it this winter, you ain't doing it in May. I'll tell you that much. All right. But obviously that's the much easier thing to do. I get the argument all the time. Well, I'm not opening up a brokerage account. That's just, I heard people have gone bankrupt from that, and I'm not doing that. You know what the easiest thing for me to do today in a drought with a brokerage account? Buy a put option, buy a canola put option, take some dollars, some risk management dollars, buy a put option. And if I don't like that put option tomorrow, I could sell it back. If I don't like it next week, I can sell it back. If I want to buy one at a higher strike in a rally, I can. Meanwhile, I've protected downside. I haven't exposed myself to anything from a buyout scenario. But anyway, maybe that's now turned into a rant instead of, maybe that just turned into too much of a rant here for number one on eating your veggies. Number two, I want you to do a little contract maintenance right now. Because if you're like me, you've been active. You've been selling a little bit of canola. You've been looking at your barley market, doing a little bit of your barley, maybe getting some oats, a little bit of oats sold here as well. Heck, if you're growing yellow peas or green peas, you probably got some of those contracted in the last couple of days here as well, or last week or so. But just a little contract maintenance, because when this market turns or the market rallies, for example, you got to know, even write it on the window of the tractor, I am X% sold on so many bushels per acre, whatever it is. Just have that visual for yourself. You got a lot of screens in the tractor. Maybe you can put it on a screen there as well. But if not, marker, window, take a look at it. Do a little contract maintenance right now, because you're gonna be making moves here in the next little while, and you're busy. You're busy as all heck right now. So just do a little contract maintenance. Get yourself in a frame of mind of knowing your percent sold so that you can execute the next sale this spring. Okay. And my last one, I'm going to harp on this a lot, but 2026. Okay. 2026 canola futures, November 2026 canola futures. Thank you, Patterson. Thank you, Cargill. Thank you, Bunge. You can lock some of that in. For many farms, they're talking about $14 scenarios as a starting point, is on a little bit, just a little bit. You don't like the spring wheat prices today, for example. September of 25 at 615. Well, go take a peek over at September 26, 661. You want to grab that extra 45, 50 cents? Maybe not today, but in short order. Don't forget about fall of 2026. I think you should be marketing multiple crop years right now. And especially if there's a path there to profitability on, like, the price of wheat in portions of the prairies has a 6. The price of feed barley has a 5. And I'm not talking about like a 501 and a 699. I'm talking about like a 5 and a 620. Like the wheat market, oh man, it is not a lot of fun right now. So anyways, those are my 3 things here for eating your veggies for this week. Well, thanks once again here for hanging out with me this week on the What the Futures podcast. We got a lot of stuff going on in the background. It's been super active on conference stuff. You can't forget about the Crop Marketing Made Cool conference in December in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. If you at the very least, application process is open. You can go and apply and get yourself in a position here to get tickets later this year. We've been working hard on that in the background. So that's been fun this week. Egg in Motion's been fun. And honestly, we're in the thick of it for planning for 2026. And of course, marketing multiple crop years as well right now, which is keeping things extra exciting. If you liked this episode, share it with your egg community. Share it with your friends, your family, your neighbors. I certainly do appreciate it. And if you want to send me a little note, you can email me, Ryan, at whatthefuturespodcast.ca. just let me know where you're planting, how it's going, your percent seeded, what you think of conditions, and give me a little positivity around your crop marketing plan, how much fun you're having marketing grains, oilseeds, pulses here, this especially crops this spring. Of course, prices, strategies can change by the time you listen to this podcast, so always seek the advice of a professional out there. I'm going to try to get a bit more granular in strategies, but guys, I need you to hang in there with me. This goes out once a week. These markets change all the time. And so you got to bear with me because I'd like to give you more strategy. I just also need you to realize that things change too. So that's it for me this week, folks. Have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. Take time to recharge just a little bit when you can. Maybe it's a fresh cup of coffee. Maybe it's a 15-minute cat nap. You are out there just giving her. Be safe. And we'll check in as soon as we can here from the What's the Futures podcast. I'm out.